A disturbing story from Saudi Arabia. Word that the Saudis have refused to remove a section of extremist content from school books. That content promotes violence among many groups, including Christians. Here to discuss this very important issue, the president of the Family Research Council, Tony Perkins. Tony is also a member of the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. That is the group that conducted this survey. Tony, very disturbing information in this survey.
It is, Todd, and this is something that's been going on for quite some time. In fact, after 9/11, there was a focus in connecting these dots, and beyond the fact that 15 of the 19 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia, the textbooks that Saudi Arabia had been promoting and publishing around the world, not just in Saudi Arabia, but in Afghanistan and other places, came to the really came to be a focal point of our government. And they promised by 2008 that they would reform their textbooks. Now, we're talking about textbooks in elementary, middle school, and high school. This latest report that was released last week looked at the textbooks in middle school and high school in the 2017-2018 school year. So these are the books that are currently being used. And what we found out, Todd, was that in the early years of this reform effort, they took a step forward, but unfortunately, they've taken about 2 steps backwards, and these books, in many ways, are just as bad as they were at right after 9/11.
Yeah, they call Christianity, according to the survey here, an invalid and perverted religion. They target Jews, describing them as devious, deceptive schemers. I mean, they're teaching this to children. This is very, very alarming and concerning here, Tony.
Well, they also target other Muslims that do not believe in the Wahhabi faith or the sect of the Muslim faith. And as I've traveled to different Muslim majority countries, they've actually raised concern about these Saudi textbooks because they are being used to incite violence in their own countries. And so, yes, it talks about death to those who commit apostasy. And they're not talking about, like eternal death and judgment. They're talking about taking matters into their own hands right now. And that's what is the verdict for those who leave the Muslim faith or, in some cases, mock the prophet.
I mean, they attack gays, they attack women, as you mentioned, Shiite. What is the concern here long term? I mean, you have a generation of children in Saudi Arabia that are being taught this nonsense.
Well, again, it's not just in Saudi Arabia. In fact, during the Obama administration, the Obama administration appointed the first ever envoy to Muslim majority countries. After 4 years on the job, she had visited some 80 different countries, and her comment was that commenting about the pernicious nature of Saudi Arabia and how their textbooks and their material is radicalizing Muslims around the world. So this is a problem, and one of the recommendations that we are making, have made, is that the Saudis, who are flush with money and have been promoting and giving away these textbooks, should revise them and take away this insightful language and then do a buyback program, buying back these textbooks that have literally been shipped around the world to incite violence against a lot of different people, as you pointed out.
But is there really any indication the Saudis would be willing to do that? I mean, they've pretty much demonstrated that they're going to do whatever they're going to do. And quite frankly, the United States in particular turns a blind eye because, again, we need that relationship with the Saudis.
Yes, that historically has been true, and they've promised to make these reforms, but they have not. I think it's time to fish or cut bait. It is time for them to begin revising these textbooks, reforming it, and stop the incitement that is taking place around the world. Here, we're in a stronger position now, Todd. As under this administration, where we've pursued energy independence, we're no longer dependent upon the Saudi oil, which, by the way, is what's made their coffers flush with money to promote these texts, which they've been sending out around the country, around the world, I should say, and funding madrasas, these Islamic schools, even here in the United States. So energy independence certainly is one step forward, but I think this administration is going to have to hold them accountable to fix these textbooks, revise them, and then buy back those insightful manuals that are out there around the world.
I mean, heaven forbid this is the case, Tony, but we're talking about Jihad 101 here. I mean, you could very well have the next Osama bin Laden in one of those classrooms reading from that textbook.
Well, it's interesting you say that because actually after 9/11 and in connecting all the dots, Saudi Arabia was funneling their textbooks into Afghanistan prior to 9/11 with some of the madrasas that they had created. So clearly they were a part of fueling the hatred toward America and toward the West, which led to 9/11.
All right, Tony, great work there on the commission. We appreciate you guys shedding some pretty serious light on a very important subject. Thank you.
Todd, great to be with you.